Okay, let's talk a little bit about Don Siegel, who made a film with Don
Yeah.
Siegel. And I guess that really started to set the stage. You worked with him early on, just kind of setting the stage of all the technique that he would be famous for later. You know, all the great, um, I guess what they call men's action films. What was it like back in those years working in Mexico with Don Siegel?
Uh, I don't remember which pictures we did in Mexico.
Well, I'll find it. But before I find it, let's talk about 30 Seconds Over Tokyo because I want to talk about a movie. I'm interviewing Van when I get back, and that's a movie where it's all men, and Phyllis Thaxter very much, made a lot of films where you're in the
Yeah.
military, and there would be a certain kind of woman cast for that, a certain type of actress. Um, how do how was your, just as best as you can remember it? How did Phyllis Thaxter handle working with every major male star in 1944? I mean, how did she handle that?
You'd have to ask her. I have no idea
But
because
I mean, from your point of view, did she
I
seem
don't. I,
intimidated? Did she just kind of was she? Were you guys very? Did you make her feel comfortable?
I have no. I don't think I even encountered her in the film.
Okay, all right, fine, okay. Um, let's talk about Undercurrent at MGM.
Underdrawers.
That was a good one with Vincent Minnelli. Now there's a movie that's not written about much. I couldn't find too much about it. Katharine Hepburn, Robert Taylor. Um, it might have been Jane Meadows. Well, maybe one of her first films. What? Why do you think they wanted you in Undercurrent at
They got me
MGM?
cheap. I worked cheap. I didn't use up too many takes, and I got there on time and found my marks, and
Okay, great. Fantastic. You have these great little capsule things that are so good for editing. Okay, I'm trying. Okay, I don't know whether this is true. Maybe you can help me out on this. You did a movie with Marilyn Monroe called River of No Return. It was extremely physical. Um, there, Charlton Heston told me, and I don't know whether it was this film, that someone talked to him about doing a film with Marilyn Monroe, and he said, I've heard too much about how she delays everything. And I think that some of that is a bad rap because I think that there were times in her career when she was a very cooperative person. Can you give me some feeling of what it was like to work on that film? That seemed like a very hard film to work on.
not really. No, well, Preminger, of course, is not the easiest man. Was not the easiest fellow in the world to work with. And but I had met Marilyn when I was working at Lockheed. She was married to my. I was running a shaper and drop hammer. And my partner was a guy named Jim Doherty, and she was Norma Jean Doherty. And I met her at a Lockheed dance with the Dorsey Brothers band and Sinatra singing. I introduced her to Sinatra because I had known Frank, since we were kids. And then um, on the way up in the plane, we stopped in Portland and to redo the whole plane, on the way up to Canada. And um, I got off the plane, and Marilyn did not. And there was the Rose Queen, and there were all these people there, ready to greet her and serenade her, or whatever. And so someone asked me if I would go and ask, get her off the plane, because they said for you she'd do it, because we were old friends. So I went in and asked her, and she opened her bag and got a mirror out, and she, oh, this requires a complete overhaul. So she went into the John, and she eventually appeared at the top of the ladder like Marilyn Monroe. And that was it. She never was herself. She always had to appear as Marilyn Monroe, and she suffered increasingly from agoraphobia, which is the fear of identity, you know, of being singled out. And she'd get up in the morning and she'd go to the hairdresser. She had a hairdresser up on Sunset Boulevard. This is when she lived I forget, anyway, in West Hollywood. And then she'd come back to her apartment, and that was it. She couldn't leave. She was terrified. She was just afraid to be out in public or to be identified, you know, because she had to play this role of Marilyn Monroe, which she was not. And it just overcame her. And she was the sweetest, nicest, most generous. She trusted everyone, unfortunately. And they just used her and used her.
When you were working on that movie with her, so she was not a prima donna at all. Like,
Not at all, no. No. You couldn't be with Preminger screaming at you. I remember she had a dialogue coach, if you will, named Natasha Lytess, who was a failed actress. I remember I worked with her a couple of times in radio, and she'd go up until the dress rehearsal, and then whoop, they'd go out and get the secretary out of the hall, anybody, you know, because she was so bad. Anyway, she would, Marilyn is standing there by the camera, and she's supposed to run out into the river and cut the rope on this raft. And she's standing by the camera and she's saying, "It is the panic of considered flight." And I said, "What?" She said, "It is the..." I said, "Look, this river came off the glacier and all the stones were very, very slippery, round stones, you know, ground by the glacier. And this rock dust, which forms a sort of a slime on the stones, is very, very dangerous, slippery. So I said, don't run out there. You're going to fall and break your leg." And she said, "It is the panic of considered flight." And I said, "I don't know about that, but don't run out there." And the Preminger says, "Action." She runs out, broke her leg.
and then they had to stop. They had to wait.
No, she taped it up and went back to work.